All right, welcome back to the show. Corked Stats, fastest freaking show in fantasy football, absolutely anywhere. With your homeboy. Let's go. Big Johnny Stud. Follow me up on Twitter at John Legaza. Hello, sharpening the damn razor. You may know me from The Athletic, maybe Rotoballer, maybe MB Fantasy Life, a little bit of a fantasy mercenary. But I am 10 toes down, elbow deep in the fantasy streets right now. Check out the Twitter handle, John Legaza. Same handle over on Substack, where data, ranks, projections, uploadable best ball stats. I just modeled the entire season, put out my own standings, opposed to Vegas lines, as well as modeled week one. It is time for football, baby. Yeah. All right, let's go. Kicking to OG, we're going to do a best ball draft. That's going to kick off in just a few minutes. One or two people left to get in there. I'm trying to max out this drafters mini real quick. Low entry point, 10K up top. Lots of fun for everyone. I've been doing a ton of the main event over there, which I love because there's also a weekly winner element. Top score of the week gets like 5K cash. Gives you a reason to check in every week. The mini that I'm playing now does not have the weekly winner, but it does allow you to get a little crazy, all right? You know, the low stakes ones is a really good place to fill in the rest of your portfolio. We're going to talk some shit. And if we get a chance, maybe I'll flip through some of the tools. I just revamped the entire data suite and definitely really happy with the way it came out. Check that out. Pin post on Substack. You can see that stuff for free. Give you samples. Also, I'm always tweeting shit on Twitter, which I guess is the only place that you can tweet shit out on. We're ready to go. Looks like I got the 6th spot. I think I can cover up the names. Does anybody even give a crap? No, you can't. They'll cover themselves. This actually isn't live, so save your comments, though I do love you. Comment afterwards. I'll check back on it. Shout out to the haters also, and everyone else supporting the show, pushing us over 1,000 subs. Really do appreciate it. Press like and subscribe because that shit matters more than it should. Best ball, if you're unfamiliar, you're missing out, man. Best ball is the shit. Best ball is the shit. Best part of fantasy football is the drafts, and this does all the management on its own. No waivers, no trades, no nada. So you could stack them up. I mentioned portfolio. You could really try and balance, you know, all the ownership and stuff like that. And like I mentioned, getting a little risky. This is the only place I'm going to be having Christian McCaffrey. A little too risky for me with all the touches and stuff. Maybe I could like flip back and forth and drop some data, some of the nugs that you get when you jump on with the data. I know fantasy research is kind of static right now. All these sheets are going to update in real time. And I think having a handle on all this stuff, it just makes everything work. Especially if you're doing betting and prop betting and stuff like that. To go find this data and sort it and split it for the $2 a week we're charging on the Substack is a little ridiculous. I had half a mind to split the MLB data. Yep, it's included with the MLB every day. 7 days a week, data, ranks, projections, algorithm scores, edge calculations, waivers for both sports. You know, I know it's hard to ask for money in this day and age, but I am burning the candle on both ends. I'm going to save you $2 worth of time a week. It's my fucking goal. So while I was doing the big mouth kind of filibuster thing, I wanted to go through the McCaffrey stuff. Obviously, we're scared of the injuries, but man, 900 snaps, 311 rushes. Holy crap, man, right? He had 24 and a half fantasy points a game. This is the RB1, you know. But the efficiency stuff is down. Of course, you know, I have all that stuff going. And it's the truth. 3.9 yards per attempt, just 1.1 before, 2 3/4 after contact per attempt. That's terrible. But he got the rush yards because of the volume. Again, 42% success rate, 6.5 explosive rush. Too many negative attempts. I really like to look at that. I think that's important. And I wanted to shoot the moon. So if we're shooting the moon, we're going neighbors after McCaffrey, right? How else could you shoot? How else could you YOLO if you're not going to go McCaffrey neighbors? I've taken neighbors at the new price. I like to get it at least at the turn. I haven't really drafted McCaffrey at all. Bowers is another big time pick, but I like him in real time. So I already have my Bowers bags are packed in the main event. And I don't want to overload in these smaller tournaments. I think it's a really cool way not to say hedge or kind of pussify yourself because you don't go to the bar and order a watered down drink. You want to be drafting all the best teams. But you can't thumb your nose at all the injuries and the attrition that goes on in baseball, football in general. But if you're going to play the game, you got to lean into what makes it matter. Like what's going to make a difference. And it's really good players in good situations. But when you do hundreds of these things like I have, you end up with a lot of the same, especially if you're ahead of guys in ADP, which I don't want to say warn people of. You want to do your thing, get your guys. But price matters, especially up front. I think that's the best way. The best way to diversify is to allow pricing to come to you up front. You shouldn't be too certain top 15 overall players are going to be bad or are going to bust, which goes to McCaffrey. I don't think he's bad. I'm afraid he's going to get hurt. That's not really bust. Because look at the receiving stuff. He had an 82% route participation rate, played 89% of pass snaps, 23.5 team target share, 129 targets, good for 102, 924, and 7. I mean, like wide receiver 1 numbers. So we're going to keep shooting the moon and taking guys that I was like iffy on, especially at the price. It's Josh Allen. Listen, I could have the RB1, wide receiver 1, and QB1 all on the same team. And in a game, drafters, I really, really like drafters. They don't pay me. Maybe they should, but they don't. It's cumulative. Had trouble with that one. Meaning no playoffs. Playoffs? Yeah, no playoffs in them. It matters to know format. Definitely, survey says. Correct answer knowing the rules and the lay of the land. This is the format I think I like the best because I think it's in line with what we're trying to do. Playoffs in best ball add just a different element, maybe too much randomness for me. Maybe I'm getting old. But I feel like if you hit on the puzzle going into week 15, you should have a great shot at sealing the deal. Again, last year was like Kyle Pitts, right? Kyle Pitts had, hold on, I want to bring this up. It was insane. I wasn't really in too many of the playoff formats last year. This year I got involved with them. I'm just playing the smaller field, lower cost ones. I think as we get close, I'll smash some BPMs, of course. But I'd rather, again, because it's so highly variant, I'd rather have more chips on the table and playing the smaller field ones where, maybe a few less dupes or whatever. Need to get a little less lucky. That Falcon game was crazy, man. Hold on, let me make this 4th pick. I might have gone DJ Moore here. Oh, it's got to be Burden. I was on Burden early. I got off of him. People are worried about the groin. Again, he could win it for you down the stretch. I know in cumulative play, you want to be a little more weary of guys that might not start and hit the ground running. That said, my strategy is very much like especially with pass catchers, you'll see as we go through this, it's very much no zeros. And plus, guys are healthy when the year starts. So I feel like you have a good chance of getting padded. I'm going to be looking for guys that could be producing early in the year that go late. Dontavian Wicks with Lemon hurt. I think I liked him for early production anyway. Maybe Devon Vele. He goes so late. You could reach around for him and you're still getting him in the 17th or 18th. With Tyson kind of banged up in the hamstring, these are guys I liked anyway. For that role. Like they could produce and have some contingency value. Those are guys I've been drafting all along. And I know I was trying to YOLO. I think they fit into any plan. But we'll see where it goes from here. I'm going to punt QB now, where I normally have a real balance and I'm looking for 2 or 3 guys at every position. I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to kind of throw caution to the wind and just draft from the seat of my pants. Though the one player I want in every format, even if there's a damn fire, is Parker Washington. That's my dude. Let me see if I finished up on McCaffrey. Again, it's just it was 413 touches, 24 and a half a game. Just crazy stuff. Over 2,125 scrimmage yards. 34 goal-to-go attempts. Goal-to-go. Crazy, right? I was using Red Zone for a little bit, and he had a ton of those 271. But you really want to be, in there, like swimwear, as they say. So McCaffrey, definitely a dope pick, if you're not worried. I'm worried with big stakes. I'm not worried at $3. Who was I just talking about? Oh, Parker Washington. I guess I could. What does that look like? All right, see, look at that. So if you're following along on audio, you can jump over to YouTube, press the like and subscribe stuff if you don't mind helping me out. Help a brother out. I don't want to kind of show this stuff off. Fantasy section, right? Total points, point per game, points per round, points per target. I really like to break these things down as we get into bye weeks and splits with injury. I think it's important to have a granular lens out there. Washington was great at all. Just really good across the board. The 11 points per game is the low side, but I think there was an element of, I want to see maturity, within the system. And even if it took the Hunter injury, I think it was finding his spot in the offense. Also, they were doing the De'Ami Brown thing in Jacksonville, and that's not really an issue anymore. Sorry, I had my draft sounds muted. I'm going to unmute them because I don't want to lose sight and botch any picks. Washington, then you could see participation. 408 routes. Again, the usage really wasn't there. So on 408 routes, roads. Some words sound weird. 95 targets for 847 and 7. And you can see where this could totally explode. So 23 and a half target per route, over 2 yards per route. The efficiency stuff is there. Just 11 routes per first down. 12 and a half ADOT. I mean, that's right in that sweet spot. A little bit of deep, a little bit of near. A lot of things that we like here. We're up again. Now, no matter how much you're trying to fly by the seat of your pants, you got to be addressing running back. If you're playing for ceiling, it's got to be Jonathan Brooks. I've been worried about projectable volume for Brooks, and I think that's understandable. However, I was actually with Theo Greminger of RotoWire. Shout him out. He's part of Big Fantasy, and those guys are not always going to carve time out of their day in August, like trying to get a fucking CPA in February. So shout him out. He's the man, and he's a legit good guy, but also a real high-stakes player. And we want that, right? I'm not going to call it any names. But there are people in Big Fantasy that are constantly talking about fantasy and don't actually play. And it's funny. Somebody like me who will have thousands of dollars on fantasy football is I'm like a low-stakes guy. As we've, fantasy's turned into a year-round thing. I prefer to bet and play prop bets and stuff, so I always keep some of my powder dry. Less time for redraft than I care to admit. But those I'd rather play a few higher stakes leagues and put effort into them. I'll probably do some NFFC stuff, maybe some RT stuff. Anyway, back into Washington. Now, one of the things I was also kind of proud of that I added this year is I wanted to add a layer of nuance to where we're succeeding in man versus zone. So those are all kind of clearly labeled next to each other. Man, 29% target share versus man, 22% versus zone. 2.6 yards per route versus man, 2 yards per route versus zone. Solid EPAs on both sides, at least a quarter of a point per target, and really solid double-digit success rates. With explosive stuff and deep targets. almost a quarter of his targets were 20 air yards. I don't realize that. Trying to bag my guy P Wash as some kind of slot merchant. Bro, let me make this pick, man. Oh. Okay, I think it's QJ. Quentin Johnston is a guy I really think has a big upside, but I haven't really drafted. I've been a little scared of the price, I guess, and all the weapons there. I heard some good breakdowns of QJ. I just haven't gotten to it. So he's a player, right? Again, when you're doing kind of portfolio balancing and maybe doing it with low stake stuff, it's not like players that you hate or that would never draft. It's guys that you've maybe decided against, guys that you're interested in, right? You're curious. So we'll get in QJ in a little bit. Let's finish up with Washington. So all of the things that you like, including the slot, right? There's a very specific slot bin here, very much split wide and slot. 13 routes, 3 targets, almost 2 catches per game. Remember, those are also kind of limited because he played in games. Now, I'm going to split this for everybody. I have it during the season. I didn't split it because the sheets are brand new. I added all the stuff and whatever. When you grab stats, it's of the teams they played on. I have the forward-looking team stuff. I had to adjust it manually. So I'm going to run this sheet for, let's call it last 8 or, second half of the season. To add even a little bit more to context, in season we'll have full season L4, L6, L8, or whatever. You know what I mean? So you can see why there's so much love for Washington. The balance of deep and near, slot and outside, the ability to win against really any kind of defense. Plus, Trevor Lawrence, the book has been out on him as a first target guy, and that's where you want to be in the leading call offense. Plus, up close to the paint, man. Almost 1 red zone target per game, 12 red zone targets overall, and 4 targets in the end zone. Sorry, I have these numbers crossed. I'll fix that afterwards. Okay, we're back up. I totally lost track of the draft. 2 running backs. I want a third. Gainwell, I've been coming around on Mason. But a pick I've wanted to make is Kyle Pitts. That I think there's big upside. I've been getting scared off of the QB situation. But we know Tua can, if anything, Tua can sling the quick release ball to the slot or the tight end. We've seen him pepper Waddle and Jonnu Smith on stuff just like that. Evan Silva, who I'd love to get a hold of, but there's just entirely too many big fish that have their messages off, and I feel weird tagging guys. Hey, you want to talk to me? Will you be my friend? That's what it feels like. You're right. That's what it feels like. Will you be my friend, please? You pull up with the horn. Hey yo, what's going on? I think me and him would get along great, but I would love to get him in the chair. I may be thinking about tagging people. I don't know, but he was making the case, and I was buying it. Who did I mention? QJ. Right now, quick lesson if there's any boomers out there. Quick little Google trick. If you sort by column, let's say the thing we're interested in, total fantasy points, and then you sort by team name, it'll put the players in order of team name A to Z, but also keep them in the last thing that you set. So you can search by name. Control F is really useful in this. You could use the filters and search by team or position. We're back. And we're back. I said I was going to wait on. Okay, I think we got to go back to running backs. Another running back I've been interested in that I haven't gotten is JCM, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Is starting to get some drum beats out of camp. I was kind of big on White at one point. Not pushing him up, but taking him as that, third RB. Hopefully he falls into the flex. I think he'll have playing time because he's a very good pass blocker. He should be able to keep Jaden Daniels on his feet. That's going to be a priority, especially with Laramie Tunsil down. Remember, always try to keep our eyes down range, putting the pieces together. That said, one of the big advancements for JCM this season, apparently or supposedly, allegedly, presumably, is pass protection. And I think he's a much better runner than White. So if he can even the playing field, he could jump White. So I've been interested in Merritt. And I think the threat of the running quarterback opens up lanes for a good runner like him. If it's not so telegraphed that they might pass when he's on the field, that adds another layer of deception, which is also really important. So let's take a look at QJ on the season. He ran 487 routes. Did he play all year? I feel like he played all year. So that actually feels a little bit lighter than I thought. QJ, where are you, brother? I'm really interested in trying to attach myself to the Chargers offense and finding myself that I really hadn't. Okay, QJ missed a few. He missed a few games. He missed quite a few games. They had the bye week 12. It looks like he missed 6. He missed 15. And then he missed 18 playoffs. 18 last week, sorry. That was the boomer in me. I told him myself. Well, hold on. We're getting ready to go again. Yeah. 115. Gosh, I have Kincaid bags packed to the gills, but if he falls me at this very next pick, I'm going to take him again. Just because I don't have a lot of Allen and I don't have him attached to Kincaid. And I think Kincaid is the best tight end pick pretty much on the board. As much as I love Colston Loveland, you have to pay for it. And Kincaid's been in the triple digits where he could be like the third or fourth tight end, fifth tight end. He could be I easily could get him as a top 5 tight end. So, right, let's take a look at Johnston now. Maybe I misframed the opportunities with forgetting about the injuries for Johnston. Because when he played, he was full-time, right? Getting 35 routes a game is everything. 84 targets, went 51, 735, and 8. 6 targets a game for 52.5 receiving yards. After that, the efficiency stuff is just kind of meh. 17% target per route, 1.5 yards per route, 8.8 yards per target. 18 routes per first down, not great. The 12 A dot we do like. Lots of unrealized air yards. Again, they could stand to have been more efficient. Herbert, a little bit off with him, 13% off target rate. When going to Johnson is brutal. Some of his deep routes are going to knock the catch rate down in the first place. But we're hoping all of that improves with the improvement to the line. So I think opportunities will be there. They're going to look at him against me. We'd like to see a little bit more love against the zone. All right, we're back on the clock. Again, a player that I have, but I still think fits this build, is Malik Willis. You're going with Allen. What other player has just this tremendous upside? I cannot believe the market reaction to Malik Willis, where we've been taking like Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson for fucking years inside the top 60, inside the top 50. And now we're like, we're not interested in that. And I think it's misplaced. I understand the wide receiver room is being looked down upon. A lot of that, I believe, is deserved. I also think it might be oversold. Also, Devon Achane is a legit, certified G, bona fide star. And you can't teach that, okay? That boy is one of the best football players on the fucking planet. And I think that should be part of the equation. Yeah, okay, I get it. The wide receiver room is not great. I actually like Dulcich a lot more than a lot of people. I think he's very, very talented player. And I think that style of play where he could create mismatches, shake the shoulders, create separation, break a tackle, get yak, things he's always been very good at, I think works very well with a guy like Willis. So I think the pieces, though it's like major league with the fucking bad news bears, I do think in a ragtag way, there's a lot to be excited about for Miami. It sounds weird. Again, all this is price adjusted. Right? We're not making them a top 5 offense. They're my top 5 shit team stack. Like, those are two different questions that we're answering. Right now, we have to be done with quarterback for a while. I want to get some Rams tight end, so I'm going to wait. Upside, give me Denzel Boston, right? Doing the camp breakout thing. They just announced today he's going to be the starting X. The quarterback room is brutal. But we saw them get Harold Fannin home. And a few of the Browns wide receivers were interesting at points also. So it never hurts to add talent. And if he's going to get targets, hopefully they're catchable. But outside pick 140, I think Boston with the draft capital. Again, I don't pretend to know shit about rookies, but that's where I like to take them. All right, I need to get back into Johnson. Let's finish up with it. So you're getting decent balance. You know you're looking for explosives, right? Of those targets, 19 were deep. So that's going to be the hope, kind of winning out wide because there isn't a lot of slot love. But he's also a focal point when they get close to the paint. 15 red zone targets and 8 end zone targets with 4 caught. So Quentin Johnson, definitely an interesting play. Sorry I went for so long on the spreadsheet there. I want to show off every once in a while, what you're getting here. Finding NFL data that's detailed like this, it's very difficult. And again, $2 a week. It's not worth it. Like I wish I could get it for $2 a week. I would shut this shit down. All right, I'm up again. The way this team is coming along, I mean, I feel like come on, what better upside pick right then? Marshawn Lloyd. I need some more love in the running back room. Usually I'm not shopping in these aisles, which I'm very proud of, right? That's a stand I've made that I believe in. I'm trying to get running backs early as I can. 2 in the first 3 rounds, 2 in the first 4 rounds, 3 by the first 6, maybe 7. Last guy is that third back is the Jordan Mason we were talking about. I really like Blake Corum. But I think I've jumped. I think I put Mason in front of Corum. As much as I like Corum, he's part of a split backfield, right? We could think he's the better back. We could think he could be approaching half the touches. We could think he's approaching a little bit more than half the touches. I don't think the end zone will be his. And I just don't think you're going to push Kyron Williams out. They like him. He's part of the system. He maybe lacks explosivity, but the success rate is good. He's not a bad player. So I think Mason has a pathway in a KOC offense to take a lead role, where even if Aaron Jones is doing more of the pass catching, how long does he last, first of all? And again, the drumbeat from Mason has been strong. So he's a guy I like, is that, RB3, RB4. So this team, again, is Josh Allen and Malik Willis. I mean, you can see where you're going with that, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out. Christian McCaffrey at the 1, RB1, need him to stay healthy. Jonathan Brooks, Jaworski Merritt, Marshawn Lloyd. We're like looking for toolsy guys, and we're hoping for explosives with some pass catching. Wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, Luther Burden, Parker Washington, all the fucking sexy picks. Literally all of them. Quentin Johnson, Denzel Boston, with Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid. I mean, even if this is like a YOLO draft, there's a lot to like here. Man, now running backs are interesting again. I think I have to go back to the running back pool again. I'm going to wait. I want like Colby Parkinson. That's a guy I really like. Outside pick 200. I think he's one of the biggest misprices on the board. And I mentioned Wicks also, and he's up. And I don't know if Wicks will fall if I want Dylan Sampson, who, if the Browns are going to suck, he's like the pass catcher. He had an explosive play today. And as much as I want Wicks, I think I have to lean into my weaknesses. I think that's good drafting strategy, right? I have a lot of Sampson already. But this team needs bolstering in the running back room. And a guy like Sampson, I think, is an important pick in this draft. I think where he's going, outside pick 160, Dylan Sampson is part of the plan. And in fact, could be one of 2 in the plan. So anywhere that we think it's only a 2-man backfield, We want to be securing those guys. I think he's also mispriced. I have a ton of Tank Bigsby, but again, he was going in the 170s for so long, 180s for so long. You got to keep up with the Joneses, but I'm not sure what kind of standalone value Tank has. I do think he's in line for a lot of the rushing work if something happens to Saquon. My worry is Hurts eats up some of that TD equity also. So the max ceiling is probably a little lower than I want at where he's going at the new price. So yesterday's price is not today's price. My guy Theo is always saying he's not wrong. I'm like crossing my fingers that Wicks falls back. If not Malik Washington, Lane. It's a little early for Allen, but that's another pick that I like. Cyrus Allen. I want to take the big. I want to take the big swings. There goes Wicks. I'm going to go Allen. Allen has a way to play his way into an every down role for the Chiefs, and that is a good thing. I'm worried about Worthy if he's good. I'm worried about Worthy with the shoulder now. It's already a thing. And he's small. They're worried about that. I'm not hoping for injury optimism on guys that I'm already worried about sustainability are already banged up. So maybe it's a little bit of reach, but I'm going to go Allen. I don't really give a crap. Once we're outside 175, I give a shit less. I'm team building here. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm sorry. I love you, but ADP is determined mostly by losers. A lot of these picks are going to be zeros, and you got to build accordingly. You got to do what you got to do. Possibly.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Could be. I think if Allen pushes his way up into like the 13th, now you're probably jumping the shark. But once you're in the back end of the 15th round, like really anything goes. Guys like these are going to start going, look, there's Jacoby Lane and Malik Washington and Pat Bryant. I kind of started the run. So that's where these guys are going, and I knew that. And if I didn't take him, any one of those guys went, the run would have happened. So you got to just understand like market machinations and being willing to jump the gun sometimes if you think the payout is there. And I'm really excited about the potential for Cyrus Allen, especially with Kenneth Walker posing a real threat. Davis Maddock was talking about this. He's a real big Chiefs guy. Also a very good analyst. Everybody's been just plotting the too high stuff against Mahomes to death. And Walker is the Chiefs roster answer, right? Now, if you're going to play too far back, you might struggle. And you may have to bring those guys in, or at the very least be cheating on play action stuff, where Allen could be huge. You can remember, best ball is automated scoring. Spike weeks are huge. If you get like 2 or 3 spike weeks from a guy in the 15th round, he wasn't just like a hit. It's huge. Remember, there's no playoffs here. It doesn't reset. You get to keep all the goodies. Man, I got Willis. Do I want Dulcich? I don't know. I'm going to keep bolstering the running back room because again, I want more Parkinson, where Willis can live on his own. You're right. Willis can eat as a standalone. If Dulcich falls again, maybe I'll take him. But I took George Holani in the 16th. I think he's maybe a little more talented than other people do. I don't want to overweigh those playoff snaps, but I already mentioned not being optimistic on injuries. I don't think Charbonnet is going to be good if he comes back. You can listen, if he comes back and that beats me, so be it. If I'm off Charbonnet, means I should be on Jadarian Price, which I am. I've been buying him down into the 6th round. I think that's fine. That said, let's be honest about what Price is and where he's going in drafts. You can be bullish on Holani and Price at the same time because they're going in the 6th and the 16th. If Price were to get pushed up near, let's say, Tootin or Scatabo in the 4th, all of a sudden you better not like Holani that much. But again, Holani is on the team. And this is something like Kareem and the Spike Week guys will talk. I wish I could get Corain. He's like one of my favorite. He's like my favorite fantasy football analyst. I don't know if I want to go 4 tight ends either. I mean, I could. Do I believe enough in my wideouts? Is the thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go Dulcich just because he fell. I mean, pick 200 for Dulcich is really late. It really is. And I guess if Parkinson drops to 211, I can go with the 4 tight ends. I didn't. It's not like I have a luxury tight end. Pitt's at 100. I call that a standard, right? When it's like that's like the huge. Even top 4 rounds for Colston Loveland, I'm not taking. Sometimes I'm not taking the 3rd tight end. I'm definitely not taking the 4th. And the 4 tight end strategy is popular among, again, the kind of sharper best ball crowd. Trust me, I understand every time I disagree with him, I'm kind of taking my C.O. Jones in my own hands, but so be it. Can't let the fucking quants bully us around, you know what I mean? They're going to be wrong about stuff, and we have to try and do the best we can to figure it out. I've been copping out more to, let's use Pat for example, because let's say someone would have clicked this and he heard this. I'd like to think he's a man of intellect, right? So it wouldn't bother him because I'm bringing him up because I respect him and I listen to him. Like, it's a huge compliment. I'm a jerk off. I'm the first person to say somebody's stupid, not worth listening to. Pat is, I think he's brilliant. You know what I mean? So he was talking about not taking zeros, and I think that's important. That apparently has led, the fantasy football intellectual dark web into a lot of 4 tight end builds, it looks like. I'm just watching from afar. They're normally waiting a little bit more, right? So I didn't want to speak for him or them or their strategy because, again, I think they're smarter than I am. I kind of push back on the no zero thing. Not that zeros are good, right? Like, I'm obviously not. I'm not standing. Parkinson went right before me. Case of Ross, right there it is. Right, that's how these things go. I think 3rd quarterback time, Fernando Mendoza dropping into the 210s is value. I have some Mendoza bags packed. I'm not going to lie. But a 210 for a 3rd quarterback, I want that. I think that also opens up some back stacks. If I want a 4th tight end, it could be Michael Mayer. I'm gonna get Malik Benson, I'm sure. Looks like he's in line to win the 3. They paid Naylor, but I haven't heard much about him. They've been talking up Trey Tucker, actually. So back to, if I can remember what the hell I was saying about Pat with the no zeros. Oh, yeah, it was. So it's 2 things, right? One, the point I was trying to get to actually was not that I think Pat and these guys are wrong. Right, when I said identifying where they're wrong, I'm not trying to IKB them. That was a misframe. It's they influence markets so heavily, right? More compliments to them. That we have to try and swim in the wake of the pendulum overswing. That's what I was trying to, So like Pat loves Patty Mahomes. If Pat Corain was not Pat Corain, Patrick Mahomes would not be going where he is. So a guy like Pat, who has a BBM win, is like inherently working against himself. Because the more he likes and the more honest he is, the harder it is for him to accomplish a goal. I'm not a big Mahomes guy, so we're pivoting off of that. We're going, I believe, like if Pat was as into Purdy as he was Mahomes, I wouldn't have the Purdy bags that I do. I might have the fucking Mahomes bags. All right, more upside here. And you know what? It's weird. I'm drafting Damon Claiborne almost anywhere. I'm surprised. He's one of the few, real high upside bright spots I've been finding this deep. We're at the point where anybody with a pulse is starting to get pulled up. I mean, Emmett Johnson went. I'm worried he might not be the guy. I'm not drafting Emmett Johnson anymore. Samaj Perine got drafted. I'm not sure Perine, Perine has a job, and I know I was pushing that. And with a team with Joe Burrow, there is totally chances he has decent weeks. Where I think people are missing is I don't think Piron ever steps into that one role. I think that might be Taj Brooks. I've been drafting some Taj Brooks in the 20th, though that's only more recently because prices keep freaking moving. And all the guys we liked are now more expensive. Again, Claiborne is clearly a 3, but like I mentioned, Jones is old, and Claiborne is lighting up camp. They sound like they're in love with him. He had a massive explosive play, and everyone was jacked up. So I think he's definitely going to make the team, and I think he's in line to do some damage. Let me just go over the roster one more time and see where I need to make this last pick, like what position I need to put it at. So we have Josh Allen, Malik Willis, Fernando Mendoza feeling good. We have Allen out of the box, Willis for spike weeks, Mendoza for the back end. I like that. McCaffrey, John Brooks, JCM, Marshall Lloyd, Dylan Sampson, Helani, and Claiborne. I mean, it's the weak part. We need CMC to stay healthy. I wish he had a clear backup. He never does. Kalen Black still available. But I don't want – that's the kind of zero I'm trying to avoid. If I remember to get back to it, where Meyer went, but I would probably be better with Benson because I have some question marks. Right, a guy like Johnston could be boomer bust. A guy like Burden might be boomer bust, and we have kind of maybe a slow start where, all right, so I'm going to get Benson because I really think Benson is going to make the team, and I think if he does make the team, he might just shoot into 17th round territory where a guy like Caleb Douglas is going now. He was a 20th round pick. Now he's not a 20th round pick. You can still get Jalen Tolbert for what it's worth, but that's what we're talking about. Bad picks are getting sifted out and they're off the board, and now all the good picks are moving up, and it's been harder and harder for getting values or guys like me that have had certain players kind of highlighted all offseason that now we can't get anymore. So we're back into the spreadsheets with the draft wrapped up. We're going to get out of here in a second. I can just show off some stuff. If you sign up, if you've hung around, thank you. Press the like button. Matters more than it should. Subscribe to the channel. Matters more than it should. Waiver column at The Athletic. Just did a free breakout article for Rotoballer. I have some macro contributions at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. That stuff's all free. This year, I'm going to be doing the game-by-game write-ups for Berry. I was kind of honored to get that spot. Those are a lot of fun. And then, of course, we'll be doing betting and projections in season, optimal 150s. You can see I have Underdog uploadables. There's DraftKings uploadables. Then all the stata and dats that you get. How about the data and stats that you get? I'm really proud of this differential page if you're into handicapping or betting and stuff. Plays per game, yards per play, EPA per play differential, EPA per dropback, yards per pass attempt, points per drive, explosive plays, third down conversion differential, average distance of third down differential, turnover differential, starting position difference, rest differentials, a.k.a. the fucking stuff. I'm saying I got you. It's not madness, baby.
This is Sparta!
Damn right, Leonidas. Then the team level stuff, again, very proud of this. The whole point, again, is to save you $2 worth of time a week. I don't think I charged nearly enough for this shit, honestly. Macro stuff on the offensive side. Point differential, plays per game, yards per play, net differential, turnover, success rate, EPA per play, all the drive efficiency stuff plus speed, right? Average clock at snap, plays per drive distance, time possession per drive, first down per drive, points per drive, average start, scoring success rate, TDs per game, all the rushing stuff, before and after contact, EPA, success, explosive stuff, long rushes, heavy boxes, percentage that RBs touch the ball opposed to the quarterback runs, passing, depth, dropbacks per game, net and gross yards, air yards per attempt, yak, explosive plays versus man and zone, hurries and pressure, sacks and pressure, alignments, 2 tight end, 3 wide receiver, average third down stuff, whole different play action set, plus shotgun. If anything's missing, you let me know. I add it to the fucking thing. That's how we roll. I mean, that's part of why these sheets are so fucking good over the years. Sharp people jump in, ask me usually very nicely to add something, and I say, sure. If I got it, I add it. And it goes right up, and it's there forever for everyone. right? So this is really like the Constitution, right? It's a breathing document. So check it out, sign up. Let me know what might be missing. I like, put your handicapping hat on. Are you prop betting? The reason I mentioned that, we go into the defensive side. Again, everything that I mentioned on the offensive side, 3-and-out rates, total 3-and-outs, of course, against the rush, against the pass, tackle success, splash plays. What else could you ask for? Hurries, hits, sacks, blitz, conversions, sack per pressure, EPA, slots, man and zone. Again, you love that slot stuff. You want to know. Certain teams with the big zone rates give up a lot of stuff to the slot underneath, lots of completions, especially if they're underdogs. And we've crushed reception ladders doing that. Too high coverage rates, you need that. Defensive back deployments, cover 1, 2, 3. Then fantasy points per game allowed per position, which I think is important. And then the prop stuff that I mentioned, QB rush yards, running back receptions, tight end receptions. All the shit to cover the kind of niche stuff that we're looking for when we're betting props. So I know there might be a few better data suites. None of them are as cheap as I am. So like, if you got the cashola, you go for it. But I've been trying to give regular people a leg up in the information war. Again, if you sign up for the Substack for the whole year, you get the last month for free. It's like $1.65 a week, $88, and it takes you through. It'll take you into next football season, through all of baseball season, and you get all the baseball stuff, all the exclusive audio, all the exclusive articles. I'm really burning the candle on both ends. We get enough people to chip in on this cheap shit. This is great for everybody. Everybody wins. For real, for real. Then, I have all the player stats that I was quoting before: quarterbacks, running backs, pass catchers, split, last 4, last 6. I mean, I actually just dropped the algorithm. I'm going to only flash it because I don't want this is for paid people. I just simulated the 2026 season standings up on the board, comparing them to Vegas win-loss totals. So it really is just about everything. I like to think it looks good too. You know what I mean? I think that helps with the work. But you deserve it, right? If you're going to pay, you got to think there's a level of quality and consistency you can demand of me. And if I feel like I'm over-delivering, then I don't carry guilt. Especially if picks don't go well. Right, you notice it's not a pick selling service. It's funny. Picks is like the least important thing. I don't promote them. It's just if people want to tailor or see how I construct tickets that people will complain about. What the fuck? I'm like, the value is in the data. So thanks for picking up what I'm putting down. Really do appreciate it. Again, like and subscribe. Shit matters more than it should. Hit me up on Twitter at John Legeza. The handle is right down there. Some of the info is kind of scrolling across the screen. Check me out on Twitter. Hit me up. And that'll do it. Enjoy the games, enjoy the day. When we're done with the book, enjoy the pay. And remember, when you work this hard, winning feels a lot less like luck, yo.